So we're going to do, yesterday we multiplied binomials to get a quadratic expression. Today we're going to work backwards. We're going to say n squared minus 3n squared, or sorry, I said that wrong, just minus 3n, minus 28. Okay? Now probably the first thing you should do is, I always like to look at this and see if there's a number that I could factor out. We didn't do that yesterday because we were multiplying things. In other words, is there a number that I could factor out of all three terms? The answer is no, because technically this is a 1 in the front here. This is a 3 and this is a 28. So they don't necessarily have a common factor. Now, what I do know, though, so if I'm going to factor it, I know that this is the product of two binomials, where the first term is going to be n squared, and the last term is going to be negative 28. I also know from my work yesterday that whatever this number is plus this number should add up to negative 3n. All right? So this method is called the guess and check method. I like it because for most of the quadratic expressions that you guys will do in high school, you can almost guess and check all of them, especially if you have a lot of practice multiplying. So what you got to do is think backwards. For example, how do I get n squared? What goes here? Maybe we put an n here and an n here. Now, I will say this before we get started. When you do guess and check, sometimes you guess and it's wrong. So you have to switch some things around. Okay? But you get really good at it the more you practice. So now I know I got to put a number here and a number here, that when I multiply them, it gives me negative 28. But also, it's going to give me a number here and a number here. They have to add up to negative 3. Well, what are some factors of negative 28? Think of two numbers that you can multiply. Yeah, go ahead. 7 and 4. So I'm just going to put the 7 here, and I'm going to put the 4 here. Now remember, in order for you to get a negative 28, one of these numbers has to be negative. So it's either the 4 or the 7. If you guess wrong, you will get a positive 3n. If you guess correctly, you'll get a negative 3n. So what I like to do is I like to multiply these out, and I go, well, 7 times n is 7n. 4 times n is 4n. And then I think, which one of those needs to be negative to get this term here? The 7. So this needs to be a negative 7, and if I make that negative 7, that works. So then this factored form should be n minus 7 times the quantity n plus 4, because that's a positive 4, right? Now, how do you think we're going to double check this? Desmos. So open up a tab on your Chromebooks, and we're going to type in, now we can't do n, we have to do x. So I'm going to say x squared minus 3n, not n, it's got to be x, minus 28. And then we just graphed the factored form, right? We said it was n minus 7, not n, put in an x. Oh, because the graphing calculator only does x's. It would be the same thing if you did n, though. But and then put x plus 4, right? Not 40. What's wrong with me? All right. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see the graph. Now, clearly, if I turn this graph on or off, they're the same graph, right? But here's what I want to point out. What do you notice about this and this? Yeah, it's like the opposites. In other words, we're setting this equal to 0, and we're setting this equal to 0. So at some point, maybe tomorrow or the day after, I'm going to say, let's solve a quadratic equation, or I'll say, let's find the zeros. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to factor it, and then I'm going to set each factor equal to 0, and then blah, 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 blah. Okay? So anyways, this is all we're going to do. I'm going to take a little screenshot. I want you guys to sketch this in the graph. Oh, we should probably plot this point too, right? Oh, that's way off the graph. You don't have to, you could write this in your notebooks. You don't need to use graph paper for this, okay? Because some of these equations aren't going to fit on your graph paper, all right? So anyways, just sketch it. Did I close the notes? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Why did I do that? All right, here we go. Do you guys have any questions on that? I think maybe what we'll do though, just to solidify this, remember that yesterday, if I said n minus 7 and I set it equal to 0, that means I would add 7 to both sides, and I would get n equals 7. That's what this is. And then if I say n plus 4 and set that equal to 0, I subtract 4 from both sides, and I get n equals negative 4. That's what this is. Remember, we need to label this. So let's start thinking about the terms. These are factors. This is our quadratic expression.